Can you hear us? Okay, great.
We changed them.
But he also has the ability to control your background. If you didn't know that.
Really?
Creates feedback, so-
Take that. And see that. That's where you put it. Oh, okay. But that's where you can put it.
Okay, welcome to the Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission regular meeting of Monday, September 12th, 2016. First order of business, call to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner McNerlin?
Present.
Commissioner Doble?
Here.
Commissioner Madrigal? Here. Commissioner McCowan?
Here.
Commissioner Ward?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Orth?
Here.
Commissioner Hamburg? Here. Commissioner Rosenberg? Here. Apologies from Commissioner Hammerstrom and Commissioner Silver.
Very good, thank you. The commission welcomes participation in LAFCO meeting. Any person may address the commission on any subject within the jurisdiction of LAFCO, which is not on the agenda. There is a 3-minute limit and no action will be taken at this meeting. Individuals wishing to address the commission under public expression are welcome to do so throughout the meeting. Seeing no one in the audience, we'll move on to consent calendar. Approval of the August 1st, 2016 regular meeting minutes and approval of the claims and acceptance of the monthly financial report. Carrie.
Thank you, Chair Ward. What I noticed, and actually noticed throughout the document, there's something occurring with the Word program that you're using. You get throughout the document spaces that shouldn't occur. I don't know if it's going down a line, there should be a hyphen, but if you look, it'd be 4 of 31, and you go down under public hearings. So the very last sentence in the first paragraph under budget amendment, it says, "and questions." Then if you go down to the next paragraph, and the very last line, or second to the last, says Chair Ward to sign expected GIS. That's separated, but you find that throughout the entire document on many others. So I don't know, I mean, it's not a big deal. It just looks like sloppy work, and I have circled everything. You can go to 14, 15 of 31, and you find it throughout those pages as well. So your spacing is off, and I'd be happy to share it with you, but to me, it looks like sloppy work. And I know it's not.
Looked like a computer glitch to me.
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay. Beth?
May I ask if anyone else is experiencing that, or is it just the Board of Supervisors?
I
No.
don't see it on mine.
Well, I saw it on mine.
That's what I'm wondering, if it's something.
So if you're a part of the public, and, well, I'll give this to you so you can take a look at it. But maybe I want to return to you bringing the own paperwork with you and having it delivered here to this office. If it's not Board of Supervisors, it's exactly what I printed off from my email.
It's
Okay.
not translating somehow, yeah.
And everyone else had that same experience?
I don't see it on mine.
Did anyone else print it off from the email?
No, I went paperless.
Okay.
Mine came off email though.
We can't put it on.
Okay, we'll look
Well,
into it.
And I just heard Mr. Orth say he went paperless. There's really no way we can get it, Supervisor McCowan, myself, I don't know about Supervisor Hamburg, is it on your iPad?
Well, I've got it on my iPad, and I have some minor glitches, but nothing to the extent you're talking about.
Okay, we're gonna have to get with staff here at the county because,
John?
We have it on our iPad in the sense we got it via email. What we don't have is the ability to go in and mark it up and that kind of
Right.
thing,
Right.
which
Right.
isn't really essential. It's a
Helps.
convenience.
It helps, yeah.
so we just gotta get it figured out. And I did note that in the minutes, says 5 of 31, clerk will check with Board of Supervisors office regarding their software, and so I'm hoping we'll have an update on that.
Should be an
It's on the
update on
agenda.
that today, right?
It's on the agenda for an
Okay,
update.
good. John?
Well, so I think that's just something to check and conform, but there's a minor correction that I would suggest on page 5 of 31, adjournment. It says, it says the meeting was adjourned to the next regular meeting, and actually, the meeting was adjourned, period. The next regular meeting is Monday, September 12th.
Yep, okay, good point.
I'll move we approve the consent calendar with those changes.
Why don't
Second?
we ask Jerry if he wants to pull anything first?
Oh,
I do want to add something that wasn't on the claims. There was a bill here from Fort Bragg Advocate, I presume for public hearing notices that was not included in our claims of 7122. With commission approval, I'd like to add this to our claims for this
Yeah.
item.
I'm sure that's fine with you.
That is fine with me.
Okay.
So,
And I don't have anything to pull. Everything looked good.
My goodness.
Yes.
so just to reiterate, I'll move we
New-
approve the
new
consent
advocate.
calendar with the inclusion of the Fort Bragg Advocate News to the claims.
Okay, very good. Is there a second?
second?
Got a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner McNerlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Doble?
Yes.
Commissioner Madrigal? Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, thank you. We'll move on to item 5, CALAFCO Conference. I'll get Uma to take on this one.
Great, thank you. So the conference this year is in October 26th to 28th, down in Santa Barbara. There's a few items that we have for discussion on this agenda item. Wanted to point out that the early registration period closes on September 16th. We've had two commissioners confirmed they want to attend, so we're looking for a final count if there's anyone else. The mobile workshop, we just got notice on Friday that that is closed, so we won't need to really go through that one, I guess. The hotel reservation cutoff date is September 25th. The conference rooms at the conference rate were going very fast, so I did reserve a couple, which can be released if we won't need them. So I just wanted to let folks know that we do have some rooms available. The CalAFCO has notified us that there's a special pre-conference activity planned. There's a sailing boating event, so if anyone who is attending is interested in that, then Beth and I can give them more information about that, and we need to make that reservation as well. So those are just some little bit of information about the conference, and then we have a few things we need to do. One of them is appointment of a voting delegate, and that is, well, they'll be voting on the board elections and then participating in the business meeting, which is on Thursday morning of the conference at 8 o'clock. So what we're requesting is that we need to send that voting delegate name to CalAFCO by the 26th of this month. So if that name can be sent to us, then that would be great. The other thing we need to talk about a little bit is their board nominations. If anyone's interested in running for that for CalAFCO, there's a city seat and one public seat that's will be available at the end of the year, and so that's what the elections will be on that Thursday. And then the last thing was to do request. We had discussed last meeting whether or not to provide registration assistance for the executive officer. So one of the requests was to do a report on the costs associated with attending the conference. So on page 15 of your packet, I put together a little summary. The early registration fees are $460. After the registration, early registration, it jumps up to $500. And then the hotel runs about $165 to $175 plus taxes for a night. So I estimated that for single occupancy it would be about $1,000, and that does not include travel costs. So that's for attendance to the conference. And then I also did a little brief summary on what, just some rough estimates on transportation costs. It's about 1,000 miles, 8 hours one way. And so for I've requested consideration of assistance with the registration cost, and that would not be with the, not for the hotel or travel expenses, just the registration.
Is that it? Any
That's it.
questions? John?
Well, the first question would be, is anyone interested in putting their name forward to be a city or county representative? And if not, that resolves that portion of the item.
I know in the past, is this a change? In the past, we voted while we were there.
It-
Go ahead.
This is,
Just nominations.
yes.
Oh.
But if we don't have representatives going to the conference, then we can apply for a ballot and be able to
Okay,
vote that way.
That's the way it was, yeah.
Well, maybe the first question, taking them in order then, would be who from the commission is attending the conference, and then who should our voting delegate
It's
and
Carol,
alternate be?
Carol and Angela are attending so far.
Is
And-
anyone else?
Does anyone else want to go?
And I do believe to vote there, I think, if you haven't applied for a ballot, you have to be there when they do roll call. It's the way I remember it, but it's been a couple of years since I represented us and voted. So I think, there's some detail, just so the commissioners know, that the opening session, when they call Mendocino, you gotta be there to say here. So you can vote.
All right, so nobody else wants to go. We still have two commissioners.
Which means we have a delegate and an alternate.
So
Yes.
we'll leave
We
it to
have to
them.
decide which is which.
Decide
Well,
who's who and what's what.
Carol's here, I would probably give her the nod, and Angela by default becomes the alternate.
You showed up the wrong meeting.
That sounds fine for me, and I also am not interested in serving on for broader election at this time.
And no one is rushing forward to say they are.
No.
The next item, it probably won't surprise anyone if I think that it's the responsibility of the executive director to attend, to improve her professional skills and knowledge, but I know the commission is probably sympathetic to financing all or part of the registration. It does, from the report, the staff report, we paid half the registration in 2014. I think that's probably a fair compromise. Is
Also move?
second?
Okay. Any more discussion on it? Teresa?
I think we should pay the all conference fee and then let her pick up the remaining $2,500.
Anybody else?
I would say that whatever we do, we need to incorporate it into our policies so we don't have this discussion every time.
Right. I think we've already set 1 year precedent, so I think we ought to stick with it. Teresa?
1 year is not necessarily
I know,
precedent.
but I
They
believe
didn't
we,
even look
I
back any
believe we
further
did
years.
it even with Frank McMichael, if I remember right.
Yeah.
My feeling is that's only a, $230 investment in our part. We've got $100,000 sitting in the bank. We can afford $260 to have our brand-new executive officer be brought up to speed. I mean, the additional costs coming out of her pocket are a lot, $2,500 just compared to that $469 or whatever. I think it's a good investment, and I think we should make that, and I think, a lot of executive officers wouldn't want to pick up the rest of that $2,500. So I commend her for that, and I think we should support her going by just paying the registration fee.
Okay, anybody else? John? We have a motion with a second.
Could you clarify the motion, please?
To pay half the registration.
Okay, let's do, it's a money deal, we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner McNerlin?
Nay.
Commissioner Doble?
Yes.
Commissioner Madrigal? Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes?
Commissioner Ward?
Yes. I think John's right. Maybe the Policy and Procedure Committee could look at setting up a policy for this for future, so that we don't have this discussion every time. Or come up with a different policy that you think is fair for the commission to consider.
You could also review what AMCOG does for its staff.
Okay. All right, let's move on to item 6. Did that conclude item 5?
Yeah, we officially designated, right?
Do you need to vote on that?
I don't think we've done it in the past. We've just sort of
Direction of the chair
Direction, yeah.
could be.
Yeah. Okay, item 6, status of applications, future projects. Uma?
Sure. So we are moving through the Anderson Valley CSD proposed reorganization, and that's for annexation, detachment, and activation of latent powers for the providing ambulance services. The initial comment period has closed for that from agencies, and we've received 2 comments to date. So we're now working on the tax agreement. I haven't heard anything more on the City of Ukiah detachment of the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District. We are working through the Fort Bragg Rural Fire Protection District north of 10 Mile annexation mapping errors. There's still some confusion. I've been talking with the Board of Equalization on how best to proceed with finishing that one up, and I should have more information by the next meeting. I have a meeting with Mr. Farr after this commission meeting today, so we're working through that. The Fort Bragg detachment, I have corresponded with Chief Orsi a number of times, and he's indicated that now is not a good time to pursue it for them, so I'm clarifying that with them, and we'll send them a letter. As far as future projects, I don't have any.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask a question on that. What does that mean? He wants how much money back?
Well, I believe, so at this point, they're asking for a refund of what the deposit is.
Because most of that money was for the Board of Equalization, I believe.
Right, which has never been cashed, neither one, right? Which has never been cashed. So the situation is that because it happened so long ago, I think that sounds like the district has kind of lost interest in pursuing it at this point. They don't have time to put into it or additional monies because it's going to require some mapping revisions. He sounded a little frustrated, so I wanted to just touch bases with him one more time to make sure that that's what they wanted to do. And then I'll have to research how much the refund will be, but I believe it's what's in the account there. On that. Okay, there's funds that are in and that are on hold that we have on the tracking list for the applications that I need to research, and then we have a check that is sitting in the office for the difference in what the Board of Equalization requested and what was initially deposited for the application, which is about $690.
This goes back at least 10 years, I think, maybe more. But what does it mean now that they don't detach? They continue to service that area?
I have to research that, I'm sorry.
It's been a pet peeve of mine for a long time to get this thing resolved.
I thought it was right there, like.
Yeah, I thought it was too, according to.
And but for the mapping error, this would have been resolved, so despite, and unfortunately, Commissioner Hammerstrom's not here to give, the Fort Bragg area perspective, but in terms of process, the only reason this didn't go forward was the mapping error.
Right.
In order to not create a future Hastings Road situation, it seems like we should be committed to seeing this process through with the correct mapping, and then if anyone wants to change something after that, they can reinitiate the process, I would think.
Right. Might even affect their SOI as well. I mean, I don't know what we decided with their SOI, but anyway, I'd like to, Chief Orsi might be a little frustrated, but we'd like to see it through.
Okay.
We could also require that it be complete before the SOI is determined.
Well, I think we've already determined it.
Oh, well,
It was, seems to me it was part of we did both of those together possibly. Staff?
Okay, I can look into that. I have spoken with the surveyor who did the original work, and he apparently wasn't aware that there needed to be any changes made. So when I spoke to Chief Orsi, he was unclear. He had forgotten. Basically, it's just so much time has passed that no one's clear what needs to happen to move forward. So I've been trying to figure that out.
Well, if you could research that SOI information, and if need be, I can meet with Chief Orsi as well and explain to him we need to get this resolved.
Okay.
So this was the 10-mile annexation, so this wasn't,
This is the detachment,
There's a detachment.
which is different than the annexation.
so this wasn't what Jerry Mello shepherded through and got.
Oh, I think
I
it
think
was
it
all.
was,
Started with him.
it was
Yeah, 'cause
all
I
part of
think-
it.
Because it took him ages to
Yep.
tease it all out, so that it was all
And
clear.
but
And
for the mapping.
I would, yeah, like to,
We,
I understand the frustration, you know, because maybe the players who are there don't quite remember what needs to happen, but from our side, it's very little that needed to happen to get it done. So if we could somehow help that to move, just get over the finish line, that would
we've
be
had the
great.
$7,452 for over 10 years on our books.
There is one other issue, which is the mapping errors have been almost constant. I mean, when we submit maps to the state board, they almost always come back for corrections. And I just want to make note of that. Over 20 years. It's been a constant. It's like we just don't seem to get that cubbyhole fixed. The mapping always seems to be inaccurate, and it comes back to us with this whole re-engagement process.
Well, we should have a contract hopefully soon from GIS, and we can review that contract a little closer. All right, well, maybe you can give a report back next
Well, it's the
meeting.
surveying. It's the
surveying,
surveying.
not the
Yeah, I'm
mapping.
talking about the
Right.
survey
Okay.
in particular.
And then
Well,
like,
this wasn't the survey, it was the person preparing the map not understanding that there was a change.
Oh,
So it was lack of communication somewhere along the line, apparently.
Okay.
so again, we'll maybe report back next month, and if need be, I'll go talk with Mr. Orsi as well, Chief Orsi, and explain to him, we're almost there. Let's get
Okay.
this completed.
If there is one of the commissioners that has background information, there's not a lot in the files, and it's made it very difficult to track what has happened to date and what needs to be done. So
Maybe you could contact Commissioner Hammerstein.
Okay.
He might know some background.
Well, there probably isn't a lot in the minutes, but there ought to be quite a bit in the meeting materials.
That we
on
talked
this
about,
topic.
yeah, we've talked about a lot,
Okay.
way too much. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to correspondence. The Little Cooper.
Future projects, did we complete that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did interrupt her, didn't I? Sorry, future projects. Good point.
I don't have, these are pretty much holdover from the last meeting. Nothing changed except for the Millview County Water District annexation, where I'm working to schedule a meeting with SHN engineers on an annexation application for the Millview County Water District, and that we're hoping to meet in the next week or two. That's all I have new on that. And then for the MSR SOI updates, the Cemetery District MSR is in process. In the Fire District, the RFIs the request for informations have been drafted, and we are sending them out. We started sending them out, and we'll finish that this week. And then we're getting together the City of Willits and the City of Fort Bragg request for informations. And the Willits one was done a few years ago, or a couple of years ago anyway. So we're just trying to refresh that a little bit to make sure there's nothing that's changed since then. And that's all I have for the updates, unless there's questions.
Okay, Irish Beach, more annexation. I mean, we've been sending out invoices for months and months and months. What seems to be the problem? Have you made contact with them?
We haven't had any responses from him. I can call him again this week, and we can send out another letter.
Okay. Any questions on the future projects? Okay, very good, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to correspondence. Did everybody read the Little Hoover Commission report? Like 80 pages. Sounds like there's some changes coming down on the districts, maybe some good things. I read the conclusion, I think it was about 4 or 5 pages, that pretty much summed it up, which was a good summary.
Discussion about reserves and how to
Yeah.
treat reserves.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of them have millions and millions in reserves, some don't have hardly any.
Right, and it's a problem for the fire districts too, because they have to acquire reserves for those huge purchases. So let's hope they realize that.
Anything you need to add, Uma? Okay.
I don't have anything.
All right, we'll move on to number 8, Executive Officer Report, Special District Elections.
Yeah, so the nomination packets have been mailed. They are due on October 10th. The process past that is on the 17th, we'll issue the ballots, and then those will be due on the 15th. So that is in process and moving along. At the last meeting, the question was brought up whether the end date of the LAFCO council contract. So we did look into that, and there is no end date indicated in the contract itself.
The 30-day notice is all.
Correct.
Okay.
The LAFCO website transition, that has been completed, and we've successfully posted our first agenda packet on our new website. They have held off, yes, it looks great. If there's any comments on the website, then please get those to us in the next week. They would like to finalize that. They were holding off on sending us the invoice until we had gone through everything and made sure it was all okay. So we've gone through it and it looks good, but if there's any comments, please let us know.
Does that have to do with the contract with Plan West too, to
Correct.
help transfer it over?
That's correct, yes.
How did that go?
It went well. They did. I think they did a really nice job. We haven't come across any glitches yet, and we've been able to maneuver around it, and it looks great.
And that includes the Dropbox as well, right?
I've spoken with George, and the Dropbox, he says all the files are there.
Okay, good.
Is this what it looks like now?
It is, yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Just making sure.
Yes.
So as far as you're concerned, the contract with Plan West has been completed?
Unless there's any comments by the commission, I would, yes.
Okay.
Please.
He hasn't invoiced us yet.
Not yet. He's waiting for our final okay.
Okay. Any more?
I did have just one other thing. It's requested by CALAFCO that if there's any wine or beer that wants to be contributed for their little Wednesday night reception that they hold, that those would be welcome.
Let me just say that those are really fun, the times that I've been able to make it the beer and wine contest, for lack of a better word. We have excellent wine, but we also excel in the beer area, so I think that might be since it's in, Santa Barbara?
Mhm.
Where they also have some pretty darn good wine down there, it might set us apart to bring down some of our excellent beer.
Well, we always have, everybody say our beer and wine is very, well, actually the wine, I don't know about the beer. But because we don't have 40 people representing Mendocino County, we never win. It's always, it's a token you put in a jar, and we don't get enough tokens. Although our wine is good, Carrie.
I just wanted to remind everyone, Commissioner Silver did an excellent job last year over in Sacramento, setting up a table, and it was very nice, but our chair is exactly right. Everybody votes for their own county, and, like Sacramento, oh my gosh, because everybody could be there.
Yeah. I can probably get some Coral wine from Golden Vineyards and Massout wine from Jake Fetzer, so I can throw a few bottles of that in.
And I think Commissioner Silver also has some contacts. coming from a,
Her family.
yes. If we went to do it. But getting it down there, don't knowing I don't know their transportation modes, so,
At this point, we plan to drive down in Angela's car. So you'd be welcome, as well as, I think, if I remember, it was a fairly commodious car, so we could certainly take a case or three.
Okay, good.
would there be any, do they supply the cups?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
They
Okay.
supply the cups, and they supply the table,
And the tokens.
And the tokens.
And the tokens, yes.
So just grab lots of tokens when you can, throw them all in that jar. Okay, let's move on to committee reports. Was there any more, Emma? Beth?
Yeah, the document reader request I did speak with Board of Supervisor staff. The program that you use is for a large government meeting type thing, well beyond what we need here at LAFCO. There are a number of free document readers and editors online, as that is not my area of expertise. I can't actually recommend anyone in particular, but those can be downloaded on individuals' computers for free. That's about the extent. Doesn't seem to be anything within our size and requirements that we would pay for that would be worth the investment for that.
Input? Well, thank you for checking it out. Okay, the committee reports?
Oh,
The Hastings?
yes, the ad hoc did meet, and we gave direction to staff. So, Uma, you want to go forward with the report?
Sure. We did meet, we met with Lee Farr, and he went through the material that we were able to gather and tried to come up with what exactly the issue was. And then was requested that we contact council to come up with some options as to how to fix that and whether to fix it. And that has been sent to council, and we haven't received a response yet.
Well, we think we'll have it resolved?
Well, after looking at the documentation, it appears LAFCO did take action to have it happen. It was just the city didn't follow through in finishing what they needed to finish. And to go back today and try to do that, it's going to come at a cost, because there was a detachment that wasn't made, and the applicant is supposed to follow through. So, we talk about Fort Bragg, we talk about everything that's happened in the past, and I just need to restate the fact that our forefathers and mothers didn't finish the work as they moved through. And so it leaves us kind of hanging out there throughout the county. And according to staff's comments, these aren't the only ones. So cleaning them up, I don't know.
How much is it going to cost us for this one?
Well, that would depend on what are the options for correcting it. And so that's why we're seeking direction from council
Okay.
is, here's the set of facts, what can be done, what should be done. It's a very minor thing as
Yes.
things go. It's,
Half a row.
it's who's responsible for a section of roadway.
Okay.
Is that section of roadway going to be in the city, or is it going to be in the county?
But I think it's fair to say, LAFCO, based on the discussions and what they did in the past, LAFCO moved forward with the action, but the action was never finalized.
And that's one problem of changing, maybe our management not following through with these little projects too, or the turnover that we have. So hopefully we can clean these up.
Well, and so one way to approach that, LAFCO could take an action, but the but it would not become final until the conditions were met. And apparently, this was allowed to go forward without all the conditions being met. So it's, it's really important how you word your approvals for these different things.
Good point.
And it does seem, just dealing with the Fort Bragg one and this, that the importance of, in a relatively timely manner, I mean, we only meet once a month, so time goes by pretty quick, making sure, going back, that the things that we think are already done really are in fact done.
Right.
That's a good point.
Well, I try, and Beth helps me out. After each meeting, she sends me things that are still pending.
Yeah.
So that I can bring them up at the next meeting or the meeting after that, and continue to keep it on the front burner, so we don't lose that.
Track.
Yeah.
Knowledge
And knowledge too.
and history.
All right, well, thank you, Ad hoc, for doing, but maybe we'll see that one concluded soon. All right, we'll move on. Anything else for commission reports?
I have one.
Yeah, Tony?
Took a tour of the Willits Bypass. It's a few weeks from opening. They actually have a 2-week period where construction is complete, where they're going to hold it closed so that anything that comes up can be taken care of. The reason this relates to LAFCO is the Willits Bypass, and I just want to put it on the record, is the urban boundary of the city of Willits, as LAFCO should look in the future. What this means is that when we designed the alignment, part of the consideration was ensuring that the valley was protected, which is, of course, part of the environmental review, but also the charge of LAFCO to protect the ag lands. And so the bypass itself, if you look at it, the footprint, is that boundary. So I just want to put that on the record because we will need to protect it. So.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
Well, I would just add to that despite numerous statements that the bypass was destroying the Little Lake Valley,
Yeah.
if you drive from Reynolds Highway on the north to Brown's Corner on the south, or go the reverse, the bypass is virtually invisible.
Yes.
You can scarcely see it.
Correct.
And when you're on the bypass, you probably get a pretty good view of the Little Lake Valley.
It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, yes. Also, while we were there, they were planting 5,000 native plants that have been propagated from plants within our region. I did ask about milkweed because the monarch butterflies are now threatened, and apparently milkweed as a species is not allowed because of the cattle, even though quite a bit of the mitigation lands will not have cattle on it. So that's something I'll look into in future. But it is also, we have elk that are now occurring in the northern section of the valley. Haven't been for 200 years, and there's a lot of issues about elk, but the Potter Valley and the Laytonville herds, which are two separate subspecies, one is a meadow subspecies and one is a forest elk, have now mated, and we now have the Sherwood elk, which actually has the attributes of both. So it's the Sherwood elk likes both meadows and woodland.
And I will not get started or comment on.
Good. Okay, one of the items that was the commission approved me to sign is a contract with our GIS, and I'm not seeing it yet, so it's one of those things I want to keep pushing on, because our contract expired June 30th. So I don't know what the delay is, but, contact me if there's anything. I can come in and sign it as soon as you get it.
I'll follow up with LEAF today. It's working its way through the county processes, but I'll follow up again.
Okay, anything else? Any comments on commission reports? All right, we'll move on to legislation report. What is Assembly Bill 2613 actually?
It adds a provision for 5-year financial reviews for special districts that provide municipal services. And there's some qualifiers in it. I think it's less than $150,000 in revenue per year, and it has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors to do those financial 5-year reviews instead. But that was intended to help out the smaller districts with those audit costs.
And in our packet, there's a request to sign SB 817. I mean, it really doesn't have anything to do with us, but the CALAFCO is looking for support from all the LAFCOs? Is that what it's about?
Correct. It's for, it's to help with the tax revenue allocations for incorporated cities. And they specifically name cities in here, but the way that it was,
Oh, it does include all cities then?
that was the way it was presented by CALAFCO in the email, so that was why we included it here.
Well, as I understand it, it really restores tax equity to newly formed cities who are not getting a fair share of the vehicle license fee, which is a very important part of municipal financing. And in fact, from the letter and also from my memory, that it potentially threatens some of these cities with bankruptcy. And it's one of those, I believe it may have been an unintended consequence that nobody realized at the time the legislation was adopted that created this impact.
Okay.
And it's only taken 4 years or so to try and come up with a solution.
It would have Mendocino consequences if the town of Mendocino ever incorporated.
Oh, okay. So this is, it's really not an action item, but what's the purpose of this letter?
Well, CALAFCO is requesting that the commissions consider it and consider signing it and sending it to the governor. So it's in there as an option. And there
So-
are,
So we can make a decision on this next month? It's not on our agenda for us to approve.
okay, yeah, we can put that on the agenda for next month then.
Don?
Well, I think the governor
Yeah.
may act by next month, and
I
there's
think-
also 2 other bills referenced that are awaiting the governor's signature. So I don't think the commission can take action, but
I can do it on my own.
at the same time, I think if the chair thought it were appropriate, he could work with staff and send
Okay.
letters as the chair.
Does anybody object to that?
No.
Okay.
And for the future, you would just like to see a line on there, because it does say that, we're being requested to sign this letter, so you would just like a line in there saying potential action to do so or something?
Yeah.
Well, it would need to be an action item.
That'd be an action item on the agenda, is what I'm suggesting.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next one, the CALAFCO AB 2910. I guess that's just a report, basically, that is going through the, both houses right now and whatnot. What is that one about, do you know?
It has, I think most of it is providing clarifying language. For example, one of them was, the original language was referencing service areas and changing that to jurisdictional boundaries. There's a number of cleanup items like that, and then I don't have a full list of that, but we can send out the bill itself if folks are interested.
Okay, and then we talked about SB 817. So that moves on to, anything else at the end? Anything else, Teresa?
Yeah, I have a question for our executive officer. So now
Okay.
the appropriate time. Okay. I was just wondering how the transition is going from old EO to new EO with documents and things like that. I talked to Beth about a month ago, but I was wondering how that was going, an update on that.
It's going fairly well. It's difficult to know, it's difficult to track what's happened in the last few years as far as projects. The files, the hard copy files, don't have a lot of email correspondence in them, so I don't know what's been done as far as emails, communication over the last couple of years. in particular. So that has been difficult as far as tracking projects and how they're going and what's been said to date. I've spoken with Plan West, and they say that the files have all been uploaded to Dropbox. So but there's not the email correspondence available. So it has made it hard to track things.
A question on that then. Are you coming up with a process in your building these files that will accommodate changes, that will incorporate email communications into the file as well?
Yes, we've been talking about how best to do that, and we're going to be including a folder in the Dropbox records that is for correspondence, and we'll be saving our emails, in regards to that application or full file.
Carol?
It's my memory that that George did a lot of communication actually going and visiting people, and I'm not sure if the notes of those visits were put into the files. I mean, I just don't know. And I just wonder if how much of that communication was done orally and without a record.
Good question. Okay, anything else? We were done before 10. Do we have an adjournment? Motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn?
Okay, thank you, guys.
That was speedy.
Ladies. Good job.